welcome everyone. It is Thursday evening. I am in Chicago. We survived our mini ice storm last night, but I guess we're going to get another one Saturday night. So we're here for After You're Gone, future-proofing your genealogy research. This is it's not an easy topic to discuss, but I will tell you that this has become one of my most popular webinar and lecture topics. And I actually have a book out on this topic. It's rather 5 years old. I need to update it. But I think as we all get older, life holds up a mirror of mortality to us, and we think, what's going to happen to all my years of research? You know, after I pass away. Just so you know that this is copyrighted material. Also, the handout is my intellectual property. It is for your own personal use. I do want to mention, though, one thing is if you know of a genealogy society or even a public library in need of newsletter articles, I have this very handout in article format that your newsletter editor can use. So spread the word on that. I will be showing my email address at the end. It is also on the first page in the upper right-hand corner of the handout. So what's going to happen to your genealogy research after you die? I don't know if how long you have been researching. We probably have some newcomers here. We probably have some lifers like me. I am now in my 48th year, completed my 48th year of genealogy research. I started as a 14-year-old boy, staying with my great grandparents. They were both born in the 1890s, and the last week of January 1977, the miniseries Roots came on television. In fact, Alex Haley's birthday, I think, is coming up on the 8th. Yeah, I got wrapped up into it like a lot of Americans. There was a big surge in genealogy interest between the American Bicentennial in 1976 and Roots, the miniseries. So I have a lot of research, and I know my family. I know that when I am at an event and I pull up the family tree, my family scatters like roaches. They're not interested. They think I'm the crazy genealogy guy. I was just telling Anne that I come from a very large family. My mother was one of 12 children raised during the Great Depression in New York City. They all have kids. I have 41 first cousins or on my mother's side. And then they all had kids. And those kids add up to somewhere in the 80s, 82, 87. And I've not found anyone with an interest level to take it over. I know my family would probably just throw my stuff out. And if you think I'm joking, I hear about this all the time. I'll get an email or on Facebook, they'll say, "Did you know so and so passed away and her family, was throwing out her stuff and I rescued three hefty bags full of records and all of this." And it does happen. So how are we going to deal with that? How can you future-proof your research so that it lives beyond you, that you're building a legacy, that you're not just doing genealogy? The other thing we need to deal with is what have you done to ensure preservation of your work in terms of documents, especially original letters and diaries? Preservation, scanning is a big area. Have you focused on that? And even with digital stuff, if you've ever heard of the digital dark ages, well, it's just so easy to delete a drive or delete a folder on the computer, and boom, all those scans are gone. Okay, so let's talk about that. It is not something easy to talk about. This is the overall thing you need to remember. There are no guarantees. The only guarantees are if you do something now while you're alive. You can put this in your estate planning, and there's no guarantee that it's going to be carried out to your wishes. So that's why I have started to already donate some items, and we'll talk more about that as well. And so there are no guarantees. What do you do, or what happens if you don't do anything? if you take that, what I call the Scarlett O'Hara approach, which is, oh, I'll worry about that tomorrow. Tomorrow, after all, tomorrow's another day. Yeah, you can keep kicking this can down the road, but eventually something's going to happen. Here, I was talking to Ann before we started. Uh, Here at home, we have something called the binder, the book. It's called, and it's labeled "What If Thomas Gets Hit by a Bus?" And it has all my, logins and passwords and instructions and everything. But the thing is, yeah, it could happen. I had 4 surgeries late last fall, and so it can happen that just one day, that's it, you're gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a story. Now I want to make it very clear. This is fiction. Okay. It's somewhat satire. It's a little bit dated. It's about 23 years old. Michael John Neal is a well-known genealogist from Southern Illinois, and he wrote this as a blog post, and I have permission to use it. And I am going to go ahead and start reading it. So basically, the scenario is this: it has been nearly a year since fictional genealogist Barbara passed away. Her daughter Charlene is writing a letter to her friend Karen, reflecting on what's gone on in the past year. Charlene, the daughter, truly has been busy. Barbara, the genealogist, is probably rolling over in her grave. Dear Karen, as usual, my Christmas cards are late. It has been a busy year. We spent much of the year settling up Mother's estate. The house sold well, but cleaning it took longer than we expected. You are probably the only person who did not know Mother was a genealogy buff. She told practically every human she encountered. I'm convinced that genealogy nut was the more accurate phrase. The stuff was all over the house. Now, the inheritance would have been enough to pay for my new Mercedes had she not insisted on spending money on this blasted hobby. I don't know why she couldn't be more like my mother-in-law, Nadine, who spends her day doing needlepoint and watching reruns of 1950s television shows. My husband just does not realize how lucky he is, but men never do. My mother had to run off to cemeteries and courthouses. My mother even went to a conference in Davenport, Iowa last year. Can you imagine Davenport, Iowa? After she got back, she was so excited about all that she had learned and all the fun she had. She was planning on going to another one in California this year, but the Grim Reaper took care of that. Because of my promotion to head of knickknack sales at garbageforless.com, I had not been home for several years. I was appalled to learn that my mother had converted my old bedroom into her family history headquarters. My shelves of Tiger Beat and other magazines documenting my adolescence had been replaced with old family photographs, copies of old documents, and something called family group sheets, whatever those were. She even got rid of the pants I wore to my first junior high dance. I cried at the thought. I could not bear to go in the room and be reminded that my childhood had been stripped from me and replaced with an obsession with the past. So I told the children if they would clean the room and prepare the items for the garage, or should I say garbage sale, they could have the proceeds. I learned what true entrepreneurs they are. My son Kenny stripped mother's hard drive in under 10 minutes. I kept hearing him say, "Jedcom is Jed gone. Jedcom is Jed gone." I have no idea what it meant, but the computer fetched a great price. Susan, my daughter, took the old photographs to a flea market and was able to sell many of them. Some special labels had to be taken off, and we had to take them out of protective envelopes. Mother had written the names on the back of many of these photos. At least none of those pictures of depressing old dead people had our last name written on them. I don't want to be associated with such sour people. And Mother had some old plat book whatever that was. My son tore out the pages individually and sold them separately on eBay. It was so clever. His dad said he got much more than if he had left the book in one piece. My daughter Susan didn't tear the Bibles apart, however. I thought that showed tremendously good sense. She's learning that not everything can be marketed in the same way. The 1790 Bible brought her a good penny, but she couldn't get the one from 1900 to bring more than 50 cents. So she donated it to a local church, and here's where I'm so proud of her. We can write it off as a charitable deduction. Someone had written what they had paid for the Bible on the back cover. Susan converted it to today's dollars, and we will use that as our tax deduction amount. I've already enrolled little Susan in tax lawyer summer camp this coming August. There was also some old certificate of written on heavy paper. The silly thing wasn't even in English, so why would mother keep it? My son used the other side to keep track of the things he had sold. Waste not, want not. When we were finished, we put the paper in the recycling bin. The kids found an old wedding dress from the 1870s. They put it in the washer to get the stains out. It was terribly filthy. The worthless thing didn't even survive the extra long cycle and the half gallon of bleach. It's doubtful we can even use it for cleaning rags. And the dress, it was in some kind of old trunk. I'm not certain what it was for, but it had a name stenciled on the front in huge letters, along with the name of a town. My daughter gave it a good coating of red paint and sold it as a toy box. The filing cabinets were emptied of their contents, as were the three shelves of binders, and that was it. We were done. Now, my baby did not react very well to any of this. She cried and fussed almost the entire time. My son thought she wanted tea, as in TEA, which made no sense to me at all. And the baby cried. It sounded like she was saying family tea, family tea. She can't even talk yet, and I think my son was hearing things. The baby does look exactly like my mother, however. It's the oddest thing. The fussing didn't stop until she spit up an entire bottle of strained prunes on my junior high jeans, which we did eventually find in the basement. They were ruined. It was the one real loss. Now my past has already been taken from me, magazines and all. Charlene. Wow. What a situation. And don't think that it's out of the realm. Think about it. Think about some of the things if you picked up here. Who knows your research better than you do? Charlene didn't know what a plat book was. With the photos, she didn't understand why there would be other surnames on the back and that they could somehow be related. Same thing that was certificate that wasn't in English. I mean, most of our family members don't think like genealogists. They don't see the value in stuff that we have. Also, what's going to happen to your research? Have you put any type of plan in action? I mean, what if you were not here tomorrow? What exactly? Think about it seriously. What would happen? So I don't know about how you research. When I get on Ancestry, I'm a man with a mission. I'm there at 10 o'clock at night. I've got my Baileys and cocoa and my slippers and my pajamas. But I use a to-do list. I use a research plan. I just don't go willy-nilly from shaking leaf to shaking leaf. Same thing with putting together a plan for what's going to happen to your genealogy. You do need to have a plan. Okay. I don't like making work for people, but I think this is the best approach, and this is what has worked for me. Also, I'm going to take a sip of iced tea here for a minute so I don't lose my voice. I have another webinar to teach later tonight. Treat your genealogy research as an investment. Are you open and honest with your husband or wife or spouse or family about how much you spend every year for genealogy? Come on now. How much you spend for subscriptions? Oh, it's only about $200 a year. Meanwhile, you've got Ancestry, Genealogy Bank, Newspaper Archive, Find My Past. You know, it adds up. After almost, I'm in my 49th year. You can imagine what I spend. And even as a professional genealogist, what I spend every year ordering vinyl records, going to conferences, going to Roots Tech, traveling, all of that. There's a lot of money involved in this. And so you would want to take care of that investment. And first thing is to get organized. So when I say get organized, I know those are two dirty words for a lot of people. We're still towards the beginning of the year. This is a good time to start thinking about this. And by the way, anytime during this talk, you can put a question in the chat panel. So go ahead and do that. I just want to check and make sure. Okay, we don't have anything there yet, but I will answer your questions at the end. So let's talk about getting organized. There are two websites that I highly recommend. This is one called Organize Your Family History. It is run by Janine Adams in Indiana. And what it is, she is a professional organizer. She goes into people's homes and offices and gets them organized. And not only that, sets up a plan so that the client can maintain that organization. Well, she's done the same thing here. And so usually she's really talking about here's the 30 by 30 challenge. She has a challenge where you spend 30 minutes a day for 30 days. She does it every January, but you can do it at any time in any month. And it's a great way to just clean up your genealogy and get not just the physical items organized, but the digital items as well. So that's one of the, and this URL is in your handout under the resource list. The other one that I like, I'm not a big Facebook fan. I usually have blinders on when I'm on Facebook. Everything is focused on genealogy. But this is one of the best groups that are out there right now. It's run by Pat Richley Erickson, who is Dear Myrtle. It's got almost 44,000 members right here. And let's see if I can hide that. There we go. It is a safe place where you can ask questions about organizing your genealogy. And so here's how to store 3-ring binders to protect your records. People here packing a genealogy cemetery kit when you go out and you do some sleuthing, building customized binders on Zazzle and things like this. So some of these are kind of dated, but the thing is also this is common to any Facebook group, but did you know that there's always a search engine for posts within the group? I'm going to go here and I'm going to look for color coding. What if I want to color code my genealogy? Maybe by family lines or something like that. Well, there are already posts here about people talking about how to change your folder icon in Windows to be different colors. Here's another one looking at the Mary Hill version. Where did it go? Oh no, someone deleted the post. I hope not. Here it is. The Mary Hill version, and she has a photo here, and but yeah, so it's different color coding systems, and it's a great resource. So again, that was organizing the organized genealogist on Facebook. So I'm going to go there. Great. Next slide. Taking inventory. I know this is tedious, but how are you going to do something with what you have when you don't know what you have? Uh, and there's a way to do it. I like using a spreadsheet. I like splitting it up into three different areas: hard copy items, digital items, and online profiles. Baby boomers don't realize how much of a digital footprint they've created since 1995. If you've been on the internet since then, with accounts and emails and messages and everything related to genealogy. So we'll go over this. Okay. So it's important as well for you to do this. So let's deal with the hard copy items. This is a difficult area because I have to be cold and calculated when I take inventory. When I pick up an old photo, I don't stop and think about the sentimentality and everything. I will do that at a later time. But the thing is, you should get a list of hard copy items you have just down in writing. It can be in an Excel spreadsheet and a Word document. I have a colleague that relies upon those black and white composition notebooks that we all had in grade school. She buys them on Amazon, and in fact, Amazon sells them in different colors. She says different colors for each family group, each surname that she's tracing. Also, it's important, please label items. And when you label items, don't harm the item. As an archivist, someone that believes in archives, we do no harm. So I'm not even going to write on the back of a photo. I'm not going to put a sticker on the back of the photo. I will put the photo in a page protector, and then maybe I'll put a sticker on the page protector, or better yet, I take a 3x5 index card and I write out information about the photo. Okay, so you want to take that approach to it as well, but you need to inventory things. Have you ever heard of Swedish death cleaning? There was a very a best-selling book probably about 3, 4 years ago. The Swedes, I guess, have this tradition of once you turn 70, start to label items in terms of what you want done with them after you pass away. So there's a whole book on this lifestyle, but that's basically what you're doing with your genealogy items. What are we talking about? Your research binders and stacks of paper and folders. Okay, what's going to happen to them? Make sure that they're labeled. Make sure they're in your inventory. Genealogy books and magazines, I'll tell you, these don't have much value except if the books are really rare or out of print or have a high value, like the Mayflower set, you know, those. But other than that, there's really not much to do with those. You may have photos, slides, negatives, videos, and CD-ROMs for data. Did you know that those items degrade after time? I once had a color photo from the 80s, and I had a negative sitting on top of it, and it actually corroded the color photo, okay, because the chemicals interacted in the box that they were in. So please try and get these items scanned and digitized and also take inventory. If you're sitting on old scanner software programs, flash drives, they have minimal value. I would, maybe include those, especially flash drives, if there's data on them. Then you're going to have miscellaneous items such as audio recordings, get those digitized, gadgets, etc. Those don't have much value, but at least inventory them. Digital items, this is the second area. We don't know and we don't realize often how much we have for digital items and also where they're located. Think about your genealogy database files. If you're using Roots Magic, Family Tree Maker, Legacy Family Tree, all of those, you should be downloading your data to a GEDCOM and making sure it's backed up and it's available on a drive. This is actually, I'm going to hold this up. This is the solid state drive. It's the size of a credit card. This holds 2 terabytes. It's by SanDisk, and it's available on Amazon for about $111 right now. And this is my go-to because if there were a fire or anything, I can just grab it and go and put it in my pocket. I even had one of my friends put this in the washer in a pair of jeans, and it survived. Luckily, it didn't make the dryer. So, digital books and magazines and guides, I will tell you, they don't have much value, but also because of the terms of services, you can't just give these to another person. Also, your scanned photographs and documents, all of that that's on here, I also have backed up to the cloud. Because what if this weren't in my safe or my fire safe and my office caught on fire? It's going to ruin not only my original on my hard drive, but then the backup that I just made. And that's why we do a 3-2-1 backup. Three different backups, two different mediums, and then one has to be off-site or in the cloud. If you've been a blogger, I was a blogger from 2006 to 2017. I have hundreds of blog posts, so I have printed them out and put them in a binder. I've also backed up to XML code the blog itself. What if you've gotten emails from family and other researchers that have clues for research, maybe that you haven't gone through yet? So think about printing them out and saving them. Also, social media posts. Social media is where we are now for doing lookups and queries. We're no longer using Everton's genealogical helper or AOL or Prodigy or bulletin boards. So go ahead and you can back up your entire Facebook account as well if you didn't know that. Then finally, online profiles. Now, I have a spreadsheet with a list of my profiles, URLs, and credentials. Some people like those password books that they sell on Amazon. It's a little notebook. And to do that, make sure that this is in with your estate planning. That's really, really important. And also, more and more sites are allowing you to designate a legacy person. We'll go over that in a minute. That can take over the account for you. Facebook allows your executor to convert your account to a memorial page. That way, it's not an active account that can get hacked, but it still has all your photos and all your posts, and people can say happy birthday to you on your birthday, etc. We're seeing this more and more. AOL, Yahoo, Google has a legacy. You can assign a legacy person. So, what about working with societies, libraries, and archives? So what I've done, well, let's start a little bit of a test. True or false? You can donate any and all of your genealogy stuff to the National Archives. False, 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 false. Cannot do a drive-by and just toss a cart in a banker's box on the front steps and say, here, have it. No. The National Archives is the archivist of the U.S. federal government and presidential families. It's very rare for them to accept something. It would have to be really, really exceptional, usually an artifact like a letter or a diary related to founding fathers and to first families and presidential families. True or false? You can donate your genealogy to Library of Congress. True. There's a form. There's a link to the form in the handout. You basically have to have it printed, not published, printed. So it just needs to be printed, and there needs to be two copies. You can't send in some, dot matrix pages or, just a binder. That's not going to work. But it doesn't have to be professionally published per se. And so they will take that. True or false? You can donate your genealogy to the Family History Library in Salt Lake City. True, true, true. There's again a form in the handout, and they will take that. They like items to be indexed. Well, it's really not that much trouble if you've done an inventory. When you think of it, an inventory is an index. It's an index of what you're donating. Also, the Allen County Public Library in Fort Wayne, Indiana, the Genealogy Center, will also accept your items donated, and they will scan them and make sure that they become part of their collection. We're going to do a case study with the Newberry Library. Newberry Library is here in Chicago. It is a private library. It's 135 years old. It is very strong. Probably would say that it's the second largest genealogy library in the Midwest. Their strength are Midwest newspapers, Midwest city directories. And most of them you have to go in person. It's an amazing place, an amazing building. Well, I talked to their collections manager, and we had a discussion, and this is what I took out of that discussion in terms of his recommendations. Contact the organization prior to donation. Okay. Uh, Go ahead and do that. And when I say contact, I mean telephone. Emails, things get trapped in junk and spam. Website, usually it's not an easy way. Going in person if it's local, but go ahead and get on the phone and tell them what you have and what you want to do and see if it's an appropriate collection for them. Some donors plan years in advance, and this is not for big collections. Okay, so it doesn't mean you need to wait. You could actually start doing this now. Identify the right organization for the materials. And also, here's a sign of a good organization. Newberry Library is very good at this. I had some items that weren't appropriate for Newberry Library, but they said, the Pritzker Military Library is just down the street and they might be interested. So they'll direct you to another organization where it's a better fit. The worst case scenario, the contact with the organization, the library, happens after the person dies. Newberry Library says at least once a month they get a box, and inside the box is a letter from an attorney saying, "Hey, my client wanted you to have this." And that is not the best approach. Also, money. Uh, Processing takes time and money for these nonprofit organizations. If you were to measure on your bookshelf a linear foot, that would require 8 to 10 hours of staff time. Why? Well, they have to get it cataloged and also build a searching aid, which means that when someone shows up to go through the collection, the finding aid will list, well, in box one are these items, and these folders are these items, so it's easy to find things. Uh, the monetary donation now is more like $100 per linear foot. It's gone up since I first did this 7, 8 years ago, and that expense can be in your estate planning and can be designated to be deducted before any other disbursements to family members. So it's treated as an expense. Organizations will need time to process the materials. You can't, mom can't die and then the next week you say, okay, we're going to go look at the stuff at Newberry Library. Not going to happen. Sometimes I think that monetary donation does speed up the process and gets you to jump in line ahead of other donations. I have not verified that, but time is needed. Uh, Items that typically discarded, I don't like that word, let's say returned. The Newberry Library will return duplicate items. Most places will. The only place that wants to seems to be the Library of Congress. Loose leaf pages, computer printouts, sticky notes. They don't want those. Okay. So that's how that works. Photos. Now, if you donate photos, those will be labeled, probably placed in special collections. If you have books that are of value and they help expand the catalog at the library, they'll be cataloged separately. So, which organization should I select? Should you select? Well, here's the hierarchy that I've come up with. You want a genealogy library, okay? And the major libraries, if you don't know them, are the Godfrey in Connecticut, New England Historic and Genealogical Society in Boston. Then there's the New York Public Library, Milstein Division in New York City. There's the Allen County Public Library in Fort Wayne, Chicago, Newberry Library. Uh, there's Independence, Missouri has the Intercontinental Midwest Library with a genealogy center. The Clayton in Houston. I know there's the Huntington in Pasadena. Uh, Sutro Public Library in San Francisco. There are major libraries all over the U.S. that you can actually have a conversation with. University Library. Two ways to do that. If you live in a city with a university, see if they're interested. But more likely, if your ancestors lived in a university town. My family, one of my branches helped found Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. So some of my materials have already gone to them for their collection. Genealogical Society. Many genealogy societies have their own library. One of the best known, I think, is the Southern California Genealogical Society in Burbank. They have a storefront right down there on the main drag on Burbank. And so you may want to work with that. And of course, you want to work at the point of origin. See, my roots are French Huguenot in New Paltz, New York. There's a Huguenot Historic Society. I've donated there. My Dutch ancestors, 1645 in Schenectady, New York. I've donated to the Schenectady Historical Society. Historical societies, yeah, it depends on whether they will take your genealogy items or not. They can be kind of picky. Sometimes they'll take genealogy if it helps explain their collection, and definitely with museums. Museums seem to only want artifacts. If you've got a powder horn from the American Revolution, hey, who wouldn't want that? But the thing is, they may take a detailed genealogy of a family if it helps explain what they're sitting on in their collection. So here are some tips for working with repositories. You still need to have a plan. I know that's the project manager and me when working with organizations. You'll need to plan it out, review review organizations, call, get information, and work along those lines. And the other thing is contact the organization. This is the Newberry Library building over on East Walton, and call them. That's the best way to do it, is to call them on the phone. Inform your family members. No surprises, please. You don't want to have a reading the will. And what do you mean mom left $5,000 in Newberry Library along with her genealogy collection? No, this is something your family should know about, especially if you have a plan in the works and something happens. Then they can actually fulfill that. Include that monetary donation when you're setting up donations. That really helps. It is tax deductible while you're living, from what I understand. And of course, then whoever handles your estate, if there are taxes, etc. Do it now. Yeah, it's one of those things that, hey, it's a beginning year. This is a great New Year resolution. It's a great summertime thing, or it's better as a wintertime thing because we're stuck in with the cold. But it's really something to think about. Now, technology can help us, and then we'll get into closing this out and taking your questions. What technologies can help us? Well, I'm a big fan of scanners. This is my baby here. This is a Epson Perfection V as in Victor 600. It's a flatbed scanner, but the nice thing is it has templates that will hold negatives and slides, and it will scan those. It also is a smart scanner. I have a lot of those old 1930s and 40s brownie type photos, with the crinkled edges. I can put five of them on the scanner, and it will create five different images. Okay, so think about that. A flatbed scanner is always better. There are also some that are portable. Canon and Epson have scanners that are around $70. They're paper size, they're thin, and they run on USB power. So you could take it with you, possibly to an archive or library. A wand scanner is a no-no, I will tell you right now. From an archivist standpoint, you never drag something across a document. Also, they tend to have very, very bright lights that can damage a document. Portable scanners, I still have my Flip Pal scanner, which was a great scanner. Mine is 12 years old, still works. The nice thing about it is you took the top off and you could hold it up to a photo on the wall and it would scan it. Those they went out of business during the pandemic, and there's really nothing comparable. I think what's happened is this instead is that people are using apps on their phone. This is something you might want to check out, and there are links to these things in the handout. Uh, this is the Kodak Scanza. What this does is it has all these holders for different types of slides. I've heard it will do glass slides. It has connectors as well. It will also do negatives and it will do film, but beware that it won't convert a home movie to DVD. It will take a frame of the film and allow you to save it as a JPEG or a TIFF file. Okay, but these are on Amazon, and this I trust Kodak. There are a lot of knockoffs there that I probably wouldn't buy. This is what I'm talking about. Is in terms of digitization apps, I use Google Photos because they give me storage. But also, with my arthritis and my tremors, when these apps first came out, it was very difficult for me to get it focused, etc. Now they're a lot more forgiving. I know when I deposit my checks to Chase Bank, I can hold it and it boom, the more modern phones, the latest models, I'm on an iPhone 12, they seem to do a better job. Family sharing sites. So in terms of family sharing, forever.com, think of it as a lockbox. You set up the account, you invite family members to contribute items, family stories, photos. Some family members could have read-only access where they can read what's stored there. You can designate a legacy person. This is what I was talking about with Ancestry. This is brand new. They allow you to assign a legacy contact. Okay, I found this in one of their newsletters, and sure enough, you put in their first name and last name and their email, and they can be contacted. Let's say that your membership expires or anything like that. and they can be allowed to take over your account. Here are the best practices for genealogy future proofing, and then I will take your questions. Take inventory. You got to do this. I'm sorry. You know, it's one of those things that it's not one of the fun projects in genealogy. But if you're serious about donating stuff or having your family take care of these things, you've got to know what you have, and they have to know. And they also need to know what it is and what the importance is. Include in your estate planning. In the handout, there's a link to a codicil, a genealogy codicil for last will and testament, or talk to your estate planner and actually make sure that it's part of your estate planning. It is an asset after all those years of research. Make sure, please, that you back up your data. Carbonite, Backblaze, iDrive, they're all about the same. I like iDrive personally because it allows me to back up more than one machine, and I can even back up my phones into one account. But they're all about similar price and they work the same where they work in the background and you really don't have to do anything. Future proof your technology. Look at this VHS. Ooh, 3.5 inch floppy drive, a cassette tape. Uh, my father in law still has a lot of 3.5 inch floppy drives with data. And yes, did you know that you can buy on Amazon a floppy drive for 15 bucks? I'm serious, USB connection. And you can actually copy that data over to the cloud or over to some more modern technology. So make sure, because what's going to happen eventually is no one's going to make a floppy drive, and you're going to have to go to a third party computer shop to have them extract that data, and that's going to cost money. Have that conversation with your family. Remember, no surprises. Okay, that's the best way to do it. And let them know that you're serious about your genealogy and what you want done with it. Books and magazines, I donate most of my stuff. I live about 2 blocks from the Swedish American Museum and Genealogy Center here in Chicago, and they always have a book rack with books for sale, and that helps their programs. So think about doing that. Contact those organizations. My favorite photo of the whole slide set here. Get on the phone, contact them. That's really the only way that it works, and it ensures that you can start donating stuff now. Post items online. Some people don't feel comfortable with this, but I've had a blog for almost 20 years now. Did you know that a blog can be private? It doesn't have to be public. So you can actually set up a blog on Blogger for free or WordPress, and it can be private. You can invite family members to read it, etc. Read the terms of service and always have an exit strategy for any website where you're uploading data. That's your responsibility. If Ancestry said we're closing in 90 days, besides pulling your hair and gnashing your teeth, what would you do? Well, you say, oh, I'm going to download my tree into a JEDCOM, but do you know that doesn't save all the images that you uploaded? What about all the messages with people? Or what about all the DNA data? So you always have to have an exit strategy. And do stuff now, please. Again, not an easy thing to do. It is a major accomplishment. I'm not completely done with my future proofing, but I've made a lot of headway. My next thing is to scan. I've got 5 years of diary pages, notebook size, from my great grandmother in pencil, done during the 1950s when they retired to a home in the Catskill Mountains in New York. And I'm actually going to use artificial intelligence to transcribe them once I get them scanned. Okay, I'm going to take your questions. I want you to know that sometimes questions don't come to us right away. So you can always email me at highdefgen@gmail.com. Go ahead and try and keep the focus on this topic. I do not take client research. I'm not in the research business anymore, so I can't help you there. But I'm going to stop my sharing. Anne, what did you think of the presentation?
Very informative. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Were
you're
you going to
welcome.
mention the
Yeah,
knockbox?
the knockbox. Let me do that. Let me show it online here. And I'll pull up the site. Hold on a minute. And thanks for reminding me that. So if you want, there is something here. Let's see. I will do Knockbox. NOKBOX. So NOK stands for next of kin. This is something that there's the base kit that I was talking about, Anne, which is all the file folders and everything. But they also have a fireproof box. And I have mine, which I'm going to lift up here because I'm in the middle of tax season also. But this is what it is, folks. And it has got all these division areas in here, passports, birth certificates, estate planning, property insurance, anything like that. This is convenient for me to grab. As I was telling Ann before, I survived the 89 Loma Prieta earthquake in San Francisco. I was on the 38th floor of an office building. And ever since that and wildfires, I've always had a to-go box. So that's it. But you can look at Knockbox. They're always running a sale. Sign up when the pop-ups pops up to sign up for their email. Go ahead and do that. And this has really changed things for me. It's really a worthwhile investment. And then the other thing is on Amazon, that SanDisk, Amazon SanDisk SSD, solid state drive. Yeah, the 1 terabyte is down to $89. Yeah. And they are. I've had mine for 3 years. You can drop it for up to 6 feet. It's fine. Here's one. That's even better. $119 for 2 terabytes. Okay. And so you might want to check that out as well. So, Ann, do we have any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, kind of a plug for our library and other libraries. We have one of those Epson scanners as part of our Mac
Very good.
Studios.
Very
And
good.
we don't have a big makerspace, but a lot of libraries do. And you can talk about scanning your photos,
Yep.
transferring video cassette to DVD or to digital. That take advantage of that if you are nearby a library. And one question is, I have an old title search book for Chicago property that contains information on births, deaths, marriages going back to 1834. It was for a property that belonged to my uncle's first wife, not directly related to our family. Who would be interested?
Newberry Library and it's Chicago, is that correct?
Yes.
Chicago Historical Society, definitely. They would, but Newberry might be interested in it as well. So I
Okay.
would definitely contact them. Yeah.
Another question is, what type of archival safe boxes do you use for your memorabilia? I have
Yeah.
everything from clothing to knickknacks to reel tapes.
Yeah. I am using, now you have to be careful because a lot of things will be sold as archival and that bumps the price up 25%. Whereas you look at a similar item, as long as it says that it's acid free and and it covers that area, one of the things I'm using plain old banker's boxes. What I don't use is I don't use Rubbermaid or any plastic tubs because those chemicals can seep out. But one of the things that I have been liking lately on Amazon, let's go back here and Amazon. So is let's see, it is a Savor baby box, but they have other things. This store here, they have these baby boxes, they have wedding boxes. Here's for school years, and this is all archival. Uh, so I've been using this company for a while now, and so they've got great stuff, and it doesn't have to be expensive, uh, but it's really, I have one here. There's just the folio that they sell, and it's got pockets and everything to organize. And so that's what I do. But I would just shop around. There are archival companies that are out there. They also sell on Amazon because I have Prime and free shipping. That's where I tend to navigate. Yeah, good question.
And there's also Gaylord is also
Gaylord,
the big,
yes, that's
that's
the
the
big
one,
name. That's
yeah.
one of the big names. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, we were just a patron was saying that a college boyfriend died in that quake.
Yeah, oh, it was crazy. I've written up that story. You know, it's one of those things that I do too. They say that when an elder dies, it's like burning down a library. So every Sunday morning, I'm usually up very early, and I'm like, okay, what memory? 9/11 was a big impact for me, having been born in New York. You know, so I'm going through and I'm doing that. So yeah, yeah,
And somebody else is saying that they follow you online and they purchased the knockbox and the vault box on your
great,
recommendation,
very good.
and also bought the vault box for their kids.
Yeah,
So not just for
yeah,
genealogy.
yeah, yeah.
And someone mentioned the Saver vault box.
Yeah, the saver boxes are good, and especially they have them. They're great, for baby stuff and for school years, and
Mhm.
I know that they are acid free and they're well constructed,
Okay.
and so yeah, I've been very happy with what I bought from them as well.
This person, another patron was saying, adding to your information about picking an institution, they work in a museum and archive field in Chicago area and highly recommend keeping in mind the smaller local institutions.
Yes,
There are a lot of them in this area that would potentially like appreciate the family history information, especially if,
right.
like you said, they're like maybe one of the neighborhood,
Yeah,
like
like
Millwood Park or something, they
Yeah,
have.
like here, I live up in Andersonville on the border of Edgewater. I'm right near the Edgewater Historical Society, and I've been working with them on a few projects, and they would love stuff like that. So it could be based on the neighborhood on where that property is. Yeah. Other questions? I think I saw another one come
One
in.
more, yeah. I'm a church archivist also and know that our records are not digitized. Any tips on how to start?
Well, really, it's going to be a volunteer effort, unless it's very rare that, well, you would have to do a licensing with Ancestry or one of the other companies. They would come in and do it. Family Search will do it, but you give up some of that. You've got to have someone probably take it on who knows what the standards are that you want to scan, probably 300 or 600 DPI at a minimum, dots per inch for resolution, that you want to save as a TIFF file, which is the highest archival standard. So it takes someone or volunteer with knowledge, and but the thing is also it could be something home based. I ran something called Scanathon every Sunday, where we would get on a Zoom call, and it's almost like a quilting bee, and it was a lot of chit chat, but we'd all be scanning in the background. And we'd be talking about what we're scanning and how we scan and how we name our files and things like that. But if you've got a massive amount of records, it's going to take some planning. You've got to take inventory. You're talking about the quality of the records. And I know that budgets are tight, and it might not be a matter of being able to hire someone professionally to do it. But you'd have to recruit someone and with knowledge that would know to do that, and on a volunteer or whatever paid basis. Yeah.
That's all the questions in the chat. Is any, oh wait. Um, I got a wonderful picture of one of our men in a mostly black page. I tried to scan it using my Epson color with scanning, but the image was too dark, not nearly as good as the original. Do I need to have it done by a company?
You might try company. You also might want to try the Google Photos app on your phone, surprisingly, to do that. Also, look at the settings on your Epson scanner to make sure that you can turn the color portion off and scan in black and white. So that's what I would do. But I would go, rather than put money down, maybe go to your public library, see what they have in terms of scanner, and if there's anyone who can assist, or I would go to the Google Photos app. Yeah,
It's good to know.
yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
Well, I'm gonna get ready for my next webinar
Yeah,
on
you got to get
artificial
going.
intelligence. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank
thanks
you all
everyone
for
so
joining
much. I
us.
appreciate it, and take
Thank
care,
you,
Ann.
Thomas.
Okay, bye
Good
bye.
luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank